I'm making 2 videos today before we head out. I'm going to shoot one on my computer and I'm going to shoot one on my phone. That way I can upload them both. They'll both post probably about a similar time. I'm not going to guarantee they post at the same time, but they should post at a similar time. So once we get to the number 5 overall draft pick, things kind of change. So not every single player drafted at number 5 has made the NHL. Not every single player drafted at 6 has made the NHL. So I've expanded it. So instead of doing from 2009 to 2018, it's from 2007 to 2018. This way we still have a top 10 of players who've played NHL games, and we can rank them accordingly. So all right, that being understood. And I have to say my favorite comments I see on these videos is people asking, what about? And they throw in a name of a player that was drafted before the actual time frame that I have right in the title. Seriously, I think it's entertaining. Number 10, or naming a player who wasn't drafted in that position. That's one of my favorites too. Number 10. Islanders Mikel Del Colle. Again, between 2007 and 2018, he gets 10th spot. Del Colle, who's still finding his way at the NHL level, may very well end up higher on this list when I do it again in a couple of years. But I don't know. For me, he's at number 10. Hasn't established himself full-time as an NHLer, so it seemed like an easy pick for a top 10 to be number 10. Number 9. Former Toronto Maple Leaf Luke Schenn. Luke's had a story that's been some hard luck, or has had some hard luck involved. He's definitely spent some time waiting for his chance back at a National Hockey League job. Got that towards the end of last year with Vancouver, and now he has a contract with Tampa. That being said, he's not setting the world on fire, and for me, it was easy to throw him in at 9. He's had a better career than Del Colle at the NHL level, but he's not spectacular. And I don't think I'm speaking out of term to say not spectacular. I hope. Anyways. Number 8. This is where it got tough. Because if I go far enough back, Carl Alzner ends up on the board. Alzner has had a rough go with Montreal. And of course, he is likely buried in the American League again this coming season, and Montreal fans have been disappointed with his overall play. When Alzner's contract was signed, I don't know that necessarily management understood what they were getting, because I haven't seen his play drop off a whole lot with Montreal. It's just how he's been played and what's expected of him seems to have changed in Montreal. But either way, rough last couple of years for Alzner. I have him ahead of Schenn overall, but you could argue Schenn might have a better chance at sticking with Tampa in some capacity than Alzner. Number 7. The twice traded now Ryan Strome. I think Ryan Strome's been traded, I think it's twice. Anyways, a number 5 draft pick who never quite lived up to his number 5 status. And this is where, we're up to a Ryan Strome being number 7 on this list. And this is why number 1 overall draft picks are considered kind of important. Because there's usually a top 1, maybe a top 2 in a draft who are considered to be superstar level. And then it becomes more and more of a crapshoot with each spot. And that's part of the reason why I think this time around I should go through what we have in the first round now, which is 31 players. And see just how dramatically different things get as you go further down the chart when it comes to the draft. And it'll show you guys, where there's steals that take place and where teams were really smart with who they picked. Number 6. Nino Niederreiter. So the Islanders have drafted at number 5 a few times. And I could have been forgiven for wearing an Islanders fisherman jersey for this video. But I hadn't worn this Kings jersey, and I brought it for the trip. So I thought I have to wear the Kings jersey at least once on this trip. So Niederreiter ends up at 6. And Minnesota traded him to Carolina, a move that seemed to be kind of knee-jerky in its execution, and a move made because coach wanted to see Niederreiter go, and Carolina was more than happy to pick him up. He could end up scoring 30 in Carolina if he picks up where he left off last season. Number 5. Noah Hanifin, currently of the Calgary Flames, formerly of the Carolina Hurricanes. Hanifin is one of those guys that there's some division on how good he can be, where his ceiling is. I remember the year he's drafted, he was hyped up as being one of the top 3, and then he fell to 5, and now he's been traded once in his career. So we can debate whether or not Hanifin's lived up to his advanced billing or not, and whether or not he ever will. But he's still been solid. He's still had a pretty good career, and I would put him ahead of the other 5 below him. Again, it does tend to kind of get thinner in terms of the top-end talent. And it's so weird because you think to yourself, in this day and age, you would have more than 2 or 3 really good prospects in a draft. But it does seem to be a situation where the further down you go in the draft, it's just the scouting is better than what it may have been, I'll say 20, 30 years ago. I'm saying may have been, because to just say it's so much better than what it was wouldn't be exactly true. I could do a top 10 list of 80s, 90s, 2000s draft picks from each position, and it likely wouldn't be a whole lot different. There might be more steals, but I don't think it would be a whole lot different. Number 4. Also formerly Carolina, currently of the Calgary Flames, Elias Lindholm. Lindholm had an amazing season with Calgary last year. Looks like he fits right in on that top line. And so to me, what he's done so far in his career and where he's headed, 4 is the best spot for him. This was not a list that I really agonized over as much, except for the next spot. The next spot I really kind of sort of agonized over because I'm going, okay, accomplishments. He's got a trophy. So the guy at 3 has a trophy, but he's got a trophy. He's also from Sweden, and it's Vancouver's Elias Patterson. This one's tough. And it's tough because he wins the Calder Trophy, and you could argue what a great year he had. I believe it was 10 goals in his first 10 games. But it did peter out after that. His scoring definitely plateaued, and he hit a bit of a wall there at one point during the season. No slight to him in saying that. That's normal that rookies will end up having that sort of falling off point, and he had that. That being said, he did win the Calder. He did have an excellent season for a team that couldn't score. He was able to score at will at certain points during the year. Yes, year 2 is going to tell us where Patterson is headed, whether he's really that mega star on the way that some Canuck fans want him to be, or if he's just a really good player who can be their leading scorer. There's no harm in that either. I'm not sure where I lean on that. I'm really not. I do think he gets overhyped. At the same time, he is a very talented player, and he has shown in shootouts just how good he can be. Number 2. Brayden Schenn. Long career, solid run, just got a Stanley Cup ring. He didn't get a Conn Smythe. He didn't get any awards this year. But Brayden Schenn has quietly had a very solid career. He's been moved a couple of times in his career already. But he's a very useful player for the St. Louis Blues, and he is a big part of that top six. If something happened with Brayden Schenn, it would definitely affect their ability to stay at or near the top of their game. So to me, I had to put Schenn above Patterson for what he's done throughout his career. I can't just say, okay, well, Patterson belongs at 2. I could argue him ahead of anybody else below him. I could not argue him ahead of Schenn. Couldn't do it. Which means number 1, Toronto Maple Leafs, Morgan Rielly. There are times where he gets overhyped by the media, which is fine. There's a lot of media that's centered in Toronto, and if you talk about Toronto, you'll get a lot of clicks. But Morgan Rielly is a supremely talented defenseman, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Norris Trophy in his future. At the very least, Norris finalist, possibly multiple times. And while we're all debating about who the best Leaf is, and debates about Matthews and Tavares and Marner reign, it's almost as if people forget about Rielly in that conversation. So Morgan Rielly for me is number 1 on this list of number 5 draft picks between 2007 and 2018. So if you're asking where Ulevy is, Ulevy hasn't played a game in the NHL yet. If you're asking where Zadina is, yeah, Zadina, I believe it was Zadina that I cut out of the top 10. Just hasn't played enough games to get into a list like this. Just not right. Not fair to him to start saying, okay, well, he's the worst or he's the 10th. Especially 1 year out from his draft year. So, again, I expanded it because I started looking at guys who hadn't played or just hadn't played very much. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support and for watching. I will talk to you again soon.